Thank you, Mr. Leader. House Democrats spent last week trying to force votes to release records related to Jeffrey Epstein, and you have said that you support that movement. Why are Democrats just looking at this and pushing for this right now and not really during the Biden administration?
I support transparency in terms of the American people. The far right, Donald Trump, right-wing conspiracy theorists and others are the ones who have put this Jeffrey Epstein thing in the public domain. Let's be clear about that. No one looking at the facts disputes that. This isn't anything that any of us as House Democrats have been focused on ever in terms of trying to fan the flames of what may or may not happen. But once it has broken into the public domain, and there's a clear desire on behalf of the American people to get more information, then the right thing to do is to present the facts and the evidence to the American people so that they can make an informed decision about what may or may not have happened and who may or may not be implicated in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. Let's be clear. Let's be clear about the situation here. Jeffrey Epstein was a friend of Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein was detained during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide during the Trump administration. Trump administration officials have said prior to arriving in Washington in positions of prominence, including at the FBI and the Department of Justice, that they were going to release the Epstein files. Trump administration officials are now in a position to release the Epstein files. Does any of that, in your view, have anything to do with President Joe Biden? Why do we think President Joe Biden or President Barack Obama's names are being invoked? Because Donald Trump is running scared. And the Trump administration is running scared. What are they hiding from the American people? Release the files so that the American people can make a decision on their own. This has nothing to do with a Democratic-led conspiracy theory. And the facts and the chronology make that clear.
This resolution that the House Rules Committee approved last week calling for the release of the Epstein files, this resolution, will you commit to giving it a vote before the August recess?
So here's what I would say about the Epstein files. There is no daylight between the House Republicans, the House, and the President on maximum transparency. He has said that he wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now. My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing. And if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the president.
So no vote on this resolution before August.
No.
House Oversight just approved a subpoena of Ghislaine Maxwell. What are the main questions? What are the leading questions that you have for her?
I'm not on the House Oversight Committee. I won't be. I won't be in those meetings. But let me tell you our position. Donald Trump and House Republicans want to protect the rich and the powerful. It's the basis of their one big ugly bill, and it continues to be the theme when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. House Democrats want the truth to come out. We're going to continue to support those efforts. Donald Trump and his son and his closest friends spent years fanning the flame of this theory, and now we're holding them accountable. Do they want to protect the rich and the powerful, or do they want the truth? Those are the questions that the Oversight Committee hopefully will get to the bottom of.
Congressman, can I ask you for one question only? I'm just wondering if you're surprised that House leadership on the Republican side has decided to not move their own resolution forward and rather just sort of shut down the House Rules Committee over that.
It's shocking. I mean, it's just what people hate about Washington. They're literally adjourning Congress because they don't want to face the voters.
How's the discharge? Are you still gathering?
Well, we can't do it until 7 days. They're adjourning it before we can do it.
I want to just ask you first about your push for a subpoena for the Epstein files. Have you heard from leadership on that? Is that something that they're...
No, I didn't have to hear from leadership from that. I heard from my conscience. I've sponsored legislation in Tennessee, some of the toughest laws in the country. Chemical castration of child molesters. I passed the death penalty, and they got thrown out as possibly unconstitutional, but our legislature, in their wisdom, repassed that bill since I'd left, and the court's upheld it this time. ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, distribution legislation on porn and child porn and things like that, and I just naturally don't like those people. They are complete dirtbags, and I've held the hand of I've held the hand of people that have been abused and molested as children, and they carry a life sentence. And it's I've had reporters. I grew up in conservative West Hills and West Knoxville in Tennessee. I had neighbors call me after I'd sponsored legislation that they'd been abused, and something like this is just going to give people hope, and it tells the dirtbags that we're not standing with you. And so ultimately, I'm going to answer my Creator, and that has nothing to do with up here.
Yeah, I mean, you do it with your conscience, and that's what it is. Have you heard from other members? Are they the committee's
members,
out? They voted for it. Yeah.
Hey, what's the kid, the new guy from Florida, Texas?
Brandon Gill.
Yeah, Brandon Gill. He sits right in front of me, and he immediately walked up and shook my hand. I mean, he's the daddy. He's got two beautiful little kids and a wonderful wife, and he ain't gonna stand by that stuff. He's from Texas, man. They don't stand for it like we don't stand for it in Tennessee. So, yeah, I mean, I've received a lot of support, but I get the blowback, the uncomfortable uneasiness with this thing. But the longer we go on with this, the more it gives the idea that something is amiss here. And you got to realize the Democrats had 4 years to do something about it. Now they're bringing it up. And why are they bringing it up? Because all they got politically right now is a guy in New York who everybody's calling a communist. And he says, I'm not a communist, I'm a socialist. And that's what that's the largest office they've got running right now is a guy. And so they need a diversion. And I just wish they'd have been at the table 4 years ago. Dick Durbin in the Senate attacked my senator, Marsha Blackburn, when she tried to get these records released, and he claimed he didn't know what they were talking about and all this. Now all of a sudden he's like, but she just wouldn't cooperate. No, she cooperated. He's just trying to he's just mansplaining, and for whatever horrible reason he had not to disclose this stuff. So.
No, 100% right. I mean, there is a political aspect to this for sure. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But I guess my question, too, that I keep wondering about is this has now gotten to a point where the House Rules Committee is literally shut down. You can only vote on suspension stuff at this point. Why has this become the thing that's been so hard on the Republican side for the leadership and the members? There seems to be some kind of disconnect. They want to push forward at least a resolution, if not something stricter than that, and there's just the pushback.
I'm not big on these non-binding resolutions. I'm not big on writing letters. I just want results. And the people from Tennessee that sent me here, they clearly want results. Yeah. And this is one of those issues that just crosses that line. And I'm glad the president is pushing for the grand jury. That is a wonderful first start, and I'm looking forward to that information getting to us.
Yeah. So your subpoena would actually bring in Ghislaine Maxwell. It's been reported that she is willing to come testify before Congress, so I think this might actually happen. How important to the investigation, to the story, to all of it would it be if she actually comes before the committee and is deposed and answers questions?
I think it'd be earth-shattering, actually. I think, because she's the only one left alive. Mm-hmm. She was there, and and two, people says, well, she'll lie. Well, if we catch her in a lie, she goes back to prison under her original sentence, and she'll never get out. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's on her to tell the truth and have verifiable truth. Yeah. She can't just pull stuff out of thin air, and she has to have that proof, because it's not. there's no backing away from this.
Yeah.
She's looking at the rest of her life.
So your subpoena is the processy question, I guess. Does Chairman Comer now have to sign off on it?
I don't know what he has or has not to do, but he's committed to me that he's going to do it.
Okay.
Chairman Comer's a stand-up guy. He's always after the truth. And, he's from Kentucky. I'm from Tennessee. Our values are very similar. He's a family man. He's a good dude. Yeah. And I found him to be a very, very good friend. People ask me if it's going to cost me politically, and I say, well, sure it is. Sure it is. It makes people uncomfortable, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with, we got to do what's right. And this is the right thing to do as far as I see it.
Well, I think they're trying to follow the process, and I think there's processes in any of this. I think the American people deserve the truth, and I think that really when you look at the situation as we find it now, that there's a lot of trust that I have that the president and his team are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of it, and we're going to follow the process with the Justice Department. I think the step that they took fulfilled exactly what he asked last week, and that was that Pam Bondi have the grand jury information released, and that is now before a judge. And I understand there have been some dates as of yesterday that have been out there for further information that's being collected before the judge makes his ruling. So I do think it's moving in the right direction, and I think the American people deserve the truth. And I do believe the president and his team are going to make sure that they get it. Well, that is the conversation I understand. As you're reporting, the motion was made there in the Oversight Committee and approved to move forward in bringing her in. And so I think those conversations are continuing. And as soon as we get back from recess, I think we're going to be able to probably see that happen. In fact, some of the reports I read, I think her attorney had indicated that he was grateful for the movement that was being made and that the president and the Justice Department was making and having those conversations. So I think that is a start. And again, I think we go back that the American people deserve to know the truth, and I think you're seeing that move forward. Well, I think she most likely knows everything. I mean, let's get down to it. I mean, she was his right-hand individual that worked with Epstein, and there's no question that he is probably the most well-known convicted predator of our time. And I think that having her answer questions about who was involved in that certainly would be fair game. Well, all I know about it is that Director Gabbard has made it very clear that they are finding information that is certainly implicating that the intelligence arena had one set of pieces of information, and as things progress toward President Trump taking office, some decisions were made, perhaps even all the way to the Oval Office. So when I've been asked about this, I've made it very clear that we need to simply follow the evidence. It's just like any other situation, and there are thousands of pages of documents evidently that are being turned over to the Justice Department to move it forward. We know that no one is above the law, and we know that if they've got evidence that leads all the way back to the Oval Office, then they need to follow the evidence. And this is going to be an important matter. Listen, if the things that you're hearing that are beginning to come out indeed took place, and there's evidence to point to it, it's going to make Watergate seem like child's play. It's fascinating, the information that's beginning to come out.
Can I just ask you, do you feel like your Republican conference has gotten away from you on this Epstein issue? You saw yesterday Comer announcing that there is going to be a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you support the House Oversight Committee's work, and do you support the work of your members who do want more transparency on this?
Of course. Look, there's no daylight between members of the House Republican Conference, or for that matter, between us and the White House. I fully support my committee chairs. Jamie Comer is a trusted friend. He's an excellent chairman of the Oversight Committee, and he has a duty and responsibility to follow the truth where it leads. And so every single one of us are for maximum transparency, and we'll use every power that we have to ensure that that's done. If they see fit to bring in Ghislaine Maxwell for testimony, that's fine. I will note the obvious concern, the caveat that Chairman Comer and I and everyone has, that could she be counted on to tell the truth? Is she a credible witness? I mean, this is a person who's been sentenced to many, many years in prison for terrible, unspeakable conspiratorial acts and acts against innocent young people. I mean, can we trust what she's going to say? even if she raises her hand and says that she'll testify under oath, is that something that can be trusted? You know, that's a reasonable question. Is that credible evidence? I don't know. But we'll have to see. We have to, uncover everything that we can and let the American people evaluate.
Is there concern? I mean, obviously, we've seen conservatives shut down the House floor routinely. You saw that you had to pull the rule because of fear of Epstein votes.
No, we don't have any fear. No, hold on. No, Reese, no. There's no fear here. No, there's no fear. There's no fear. We're not going to allow the Democrats to use this as a political cudgel. Remember, they had 4 years. Hold on. The Biden administration held the Epstein files for 4 years. Not a single one of these Democrats or anyone in Congress made any peep about that at all. They could have brought a discharge petition at any point in the last 4 years. They chose not to. They waited until President Trump was elected. I think that's very suspect. And I will not allow the House to be drug into political gamesmanship. Not going to do it.
Promises that Republicans made to voters over Jeffrey Epstein. Why not more of a sense of urgency? Why not just hold a vote today?
There's no point in having a vote today because the administration is already doing everything within their power to release them. They've gone to the grand jury. They've requested the courts to unseal the documents so that they can be released. The president himself has said all credible evidence should be put out to the American people while protecting the innocent. That's where we stand as well. There's no point in passing a resolution to urge the administration to do something that they are already doing. And so that's why we're going to let that process play out. This is not out of fear in any way. What we're trying to do is maximize transparency and stand for the truth. Let me say this, very important. We want every single person who is involved in any way in the Epstein evils to be brought to swift justice. We want the full weight of the law to fall upon their head. And I will do everything within my power to make sure that is possible. That process is underway right now, and we'll see how it plays out.
Are you using the phrase that there's no daylight between you and the White House?
Yeah.
Don't you have a responsibility to build some daylight between you and the White House? You are a leader of a co-equal branch of government. Isn't part of what your members are concerned about is that there needs to be a second set of eyes?
I'm the leader of the most important branch of government. In my view, it is Article 1. And if I see that Article 1 and our authority is being breached in any way, I'll act upon it. I'm a jealous guardian of our responsibility here, our constitutional authority, and that most important branch of government, and a government of, by, and for the people. But I will tell you this right now. When I say there's no daylight between me and the president, we talk about this privately. He's spoken about it publicly. I have as well. He's trying to achieve the same exact objective that we are, that every member of the House Republican Conference wants to achieve, and that is to let the American people decide. This information should have come out a long time ago. I've been an advocate of that. We all have. But that process is underway right now. Now, we've got to jealously guard that and protect it and make sure it's happening. And if it doesn't, then we'll take appropriate action when everybody returns here. But we have to allow the court process to play out. That's how it works. I used to be a litigator. There is a standard here, a legal standard that everybody cannot forget. The courts, law enforcement, and government agencies have to protect the innocent. And the way you do that is you are very careful not to release names of victims or release it in a haphazard manner so that their names could be unmasked in some way, because it would destroy their lives. And anybody who's been swept up into that. So that's what the Justice Department is doing. I think they're doing a deliberate job right now. And our job as the Article 1 branch is to allow the executive to do that. If it doesn't come to fruition, then we will act. But we have to allow that time to process.
I want to ask you about another piece of legislation that you co-signed onto that has not moved forward, and that's the releasing of the Epstein files. I just want to see, where's your head at right now with the developments over the last few days and the fact that you guys are adjourning before a vote can happen on that?
Yes, well, I don't believe that the bill would have been ripe even in time if we weren't leaving D.C. early and adjourning before we had planned. The bill does have to ripen before we could start even getting signatures for the bill. Then there has to be a signature process, and then it could come to the floor. But I did co-sponsor this. Again, I represent the voice of the people, and this is certainly a topic that I have expressed concerns with. And now there is public outrage on both sides of the aisle, conveniently. Suddenly, my colleagues on the left care about this issue as well. But I certainly don't want this to shadow what President Trump is doing, what Secretary Tulsi Gabbard is exposing in previous administrations, and all of the wonderful things through the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Noem and our secure southern border. And there's so much that we're actually doing. I don't want this to to cloud any of that. And so to move forward with the Epstein files, potentially even bringing in Ghislaine Maxwell, my colleague Tim Burchett, offered language, to subpoena her into before our committee, and we'll see what that looks like. It looks like the DOJ is wanting to strike some sort of a deal with her and to get her testimony. So this is an issue the American people want answers on. I want answers on it, but also I want to continue on the wonderful successes of the Trump administration. A booming economy. We want America to be energy dominant. We want to continue to have a secure southern border, safe communities, and put America first.
Are you worried that if and when information from the files does come out, that there could be information that does put a smudge on this administration?
No, I don't worry about that at all. If there was anything that was going to implicate President Trump, that would have already been out. They have done everything they can to jail him, to indict him, to convict him, and even 2 attempted assassinations on his life. So I think that if there were anything in the Epstein files that would implicate President Trump, it would have already been out there. I'm not worried about that at all.
But still, you just want to know what's in it.
That's right. Yes. No, there needs to be justice for the victims.
You're heading out to recess. I'm wondering, do you think the Epstein situation is going to die down over the next couple of weeks?
It'll die down if everything's released. I mean, the whole thing is get the transparency out there. The American people want that, and they deserve that. The Democrats are using it as a wedge issue. They've had it for 4 years. What did we hear? Crickets. So I think in the next, over the recess period, you'll have some things released that should be released. I think they will be.
Can you just explain the disconnect between rules Republicans and several others who have been wanting to vote on some kind of resolution like the one y'all put forward, and leadership who's saying, we can't do that, we got to leave everything to the White House?
I think the leadership wanted to hold it, and I would have preferred it getting out. And I think they probably feel like there's going to be some releases pretty soon. And Pam Bondi, the president has a lot of confidence in, and he's told us privately, he has nothing to hide. I mean, he's been running for office. He's been in the public eye for a long time. But he is as transparent as any president we've had. That's why, look at all the things he has released or getting released. The thing on Obama, the information that on Martin Luther King. So he's as transparent as any president we've had. And this will come out. The public is not going to let this die. They have a right to know.
So you don't have any regrets about how things went down this week on the Rules Committee?
No, absolutely not. Let's say if a bill had passed. Let's say if Thomas Massey's bill had hit the floor, it has to go to the Senate. You're talking about a month, 2 months. But I do think it's coming to a head. I think in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks while we're out, you're going to have some positive movement on it. And I think once the lists are released, whatever list it is, whatever documents Pam Bondi has, whatever grand jury testimony that they have, it'll come out.
And just last one on this topic, the leadership doesn't seem to think you all are going to be getting questions about this when you're out and about at home doing town halls. They're talking about the one big beautiful bill and the policy wins and bills you pass. Do you think you're going to get questions about this at all?
You know, I value the public and the constituents. They can ask whatever question they want. Whatever's on their mind, we need to hear it. And so we'll let them make that call. It's our job. We're paid to answer questions and give solutions to it as we see it. And I don't mind that at all.
I also think it's sort of symbolic of why the American people gave Trump the White House and gave us majorities in the House and the Senate. It's because they believed for so many years their votes didn't matter, that there was a group of people that were untouchable because of their power or influence or money, and that the DOJ couldn't get to them, that no matter who they elected, nothing ever changed, and that Trump would come up here and disrupt that. So the Epstein thing is symbolic, and it encapsulates why people were so excited to vote for him. And so it's not going to go away over August. I think it'll get stronger, and we needed 7 legislative days for my bill to ripen. We only got 6 before the August recess. So as soon as we come back, I'm going to collect signatures. And one more thing, the House rules that were voted on the same week that we elected Mike Johnson say that this is a way to get true grassroots bills to the floor if they're being blocked by leadership. I really hope that Mike Johnson doesn't try to pull a fast one when we get back in September and rewrite the rules to get around this parliamentary procedure that he agreed to in the rules, the discharge.
Explain why the MAGA base is disaffected with this, with the way Johnson has handled this, maybe the way the president has handled this.
I think I just explained that.
I mean, but what's that? I mean, they bought into this idea that this is going to be a different type of administration. There's things there, and now they're like, wait a minute, this isn't what we voted for.
Well, here's the problem. The MAGA base, they voted for a Republican majority and they voted for Donald Trump to be president to reach the untouchables, because there's always been this class of people that seems to be above and beyond the law. And so the Epstein files are about reaching those people. And here's the problem for us here in the House specifically. If they become apathetic, if those voters who got energized and put Trump in the White House and us in the majority become apathetic because we don't follow up on this one simple small promise, then they're not going to show up in the midterms. We're going to lose the majority, and the Democrats will be in charge.
Do you think the MAGA base can wait until the fall? Do you think the MAGA base can wait until the fall for answers?
They shouldn't have to wait another day. I mean, I'm going in here to vote. Mike Johnson should bring this resolution up now instead of being forced to do it.
Has the president broken?
Democrats have repeatedly alleged they believe Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, that he might be implicated in some way, and that's the reason why they think there's this quote-unquote cover-up. I mean, do you subscribe to that? Do you think that there's any chance the administration is blocking the releases here because they're worried about the exposure?
I've never said that. Trump is in the files. I have no evidence to think that he's in the files. I do believe there are probably some of his friends that could be embarrassed, and maybe they did nothing wrong, but maybe just the sight of their name in these files makes it such that he doesn't want to release them. But that's no reason not to release it just because somebody's friend is going to be embarrassed. I got to run and vote.
Thank you. Speaker Johnson says recess. You want to talk about your successes, the one big beautiful bill. He doesn't think the Epstein stuff was going to come up much. What do you think? Are you anticipating any questions about that when you go back home?
Well, as I've said, we're for transparency, and I've been saying that from day one. And that's what the American people want. I've done a bunch of interviews talking about the transparency, not just in this, but in a lot of government. American people are demanding it across government. They want to know where tax dollars are going. They want to know what's happened to Epstein files. And the president's pushed it off to the judge to say to release it, as he should. And as long as that can be released without, identifying victims and the witnesses, we're going to be good.
So I'm not sure if you saw it. It just broke minutes ago. The judge is not going to release any of those grand jury testimony files.
I've not seen that, but that's that for all Americans, that's for sure.
So do you agree with the way that leadership has handled this? They basically said it shouldn't be our prerogative. It should be on the White House. But should it have been on Congress also to pass something about releasing files?
Well, where it should have really been is Joe Biden when he's had this for 4 years to see what's in there. I mean, I don't know where the Democrats were then for the last 4 years. When you look at all their messaging that they've done in the last 3 days, they did zero over 4 years. So I find it a little bit interesting. The American people have wanted transparency on this for 4 years. I think the president will continue to push to get the information out there. So we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
What's your level of concern about the way this Epstein issue has been handled? Not just by your leadership, but also by the administration.
Look, this administration has said that they were going to be transparent on this. They've put a lot of information out. They've said that they're going to deal with the grand jury. I will say that the Rules Committee spoke with one very clear voice a week ago when we put forward and voted on a resolution that would call on the Department of Justice to release all information within 30 days. I thought that was a good resolution. I was happy and proud to support it. Leadership can make a decision about what they want to put on the floor or not put on the floor.
You're okay with them not giving you a vote?
We'll let the administration. Well, they can decide what they're putting on the floor. The Rules Committee spoke with one voice. I've been very clear about what I think about it, and we'll see what happens over August. I expect that we're going to get some more information. If we don't, then I expect that there'll be action in September.
So are you okay with the Congress adjourning early for the Speaker to avoid an Epstein fight? Are you okay with them leaving early?
we're leaving the week that we're leaving. It's like a day. We're supposed to get out tomorrow. I mean, at the end of the day right now,
have a vote.
we're leaving. We're leaving this week. As I said, I voted on a resolution. I co-sponsored a resolution. It's on the floor. We've got it there. A rule is behind it. The entire Rules Committee voted for it and co-sponsored it. And we'll see what happens. But like I said, I think the administration will put more stuff out in August. And like I said, if they don't, then I promise you there's going to be some more looking at this in the first week of September.
Is it the same Wall Street Journal that's getting sued by President Trump right now? That one? I would say that, I don't comment on those cases. That's something for the White House to report on. But I will tell you that I've been talking about this since literally before it was a hot topic. And I always find it interesting that the press has not reported on the fact that under the former deputy director of the FBI, there allegedly was, deletion of files. That needs to be investigated. I've passed that off. I think the FBI is looking into that. The administration ordered the court or asked the court to unseal the files. I heard today that the court denied that. That's BS. The courts need to unseal that so the American people can see. And I also think that they need to release credible information. There's no reason why we can't look at, information not pertaining to C-SPAMmer victims. And I think the administration has that same sentiment. President Trump has said, literally release all credible information, and they should. And I do think, no promises from me because I'm not in charge of it, but I do think that they'll probably release something in the coming days.
Do you think that Speaker Johnson is listening?
I would say that the House should have probably stayed to work and do a lot more. We just saw everything that came out about Russiagate. I would like to have stayed and started to investigate that, but again, I'm not in charge. I'm just simply one member of Congress.
Is your task force going to take this up potentially in a hearing?
So there's already been an authorized subpoena that's being sent, and Comer just announced that that's going to take place. The deposition will be on August 11th, I believe, in Tallahassee. So Oversight has jurisdiction along with Judiciary. They'd have to figure that out. But again, I don't have subpoena power, as you guys all know.
Your task force was specifically named the Epstein case.
Yeah, that's why I've been one of the few that's actually been chasing this down before. It's politically optimized by many people. I would like to also say in the last 4 years, Democrats never said the word Epstein. And when Marsha Blackburn tried to actually get the Epstein client list, it was a Democrat senator that blocked it. So why all of a sudden is there interest? Why are you guys not reporting on the fact that I literally said, and there's a whistleblower that came forward that said evidence destruction was taking place. No one cares about that. They think Trump's on the Epstein client list, which I'm not saying is true. I haven't seen anything. But do you really think if he was on it that they would have held on that for about 4 years during Biden and not released it? I mean, this is really ridiculous. People were harmed by Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't think that she deserves a pardon. But yes, share her testimony. I think the American people are interested in that.
What are your thoughts? And also wanted to get your thoughts on some of the Epstein files legislation we've seen. How do you think the White House has handled that? And do you think Congress needs to be doing more to get those files out?
This is right now a full-on political dumpster fire. The United States House of Representatives has shut down and fled over Trump Epstein. The Deputy Attorney General of the United States, who never participates in witness interviews, is off to meet Ghislaine Maxwell in prison. That is just astonishingly weird to any former federal prosecutor. You've got the chairman of the the ranking member of the Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, pointing out $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions associated with Jeffrey Epstein that this Department of Justice under Pam Bondi never bothered to investigate, even though the Treasury Department knew about them. So everywhere you look around this town right now, the Epstein thing is blowing up, and they're handling it very, very badly. We are not getting the truth. And one simple tell will be that the president has denied that the supposed letter that he put in the Jeffrey Epstein 50th birthday book even exists. He's denied that he has done it. Well, the Deputy Attorney General is going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, who, according to the Wall Street Journal reporting, was the person who put that book together. So she may have stories that confirm that Trump did in fact do that letter, that he has in fact lied to the American public, and given his history as Trump's criminal lawyer, the likelihood that he'll ask the right questions to get that information out is pretty slim. So they keep making it worse for themselves by not being truthful.
Mr. President, today marks the first day of the House embarking on their Epstein recess. And already, the story Republicans hoped would quietly fade is growing louder by the hour. Just yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice informed President Trump back in May that his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files. Let me remind my colleagues, only last week, Donald Trump told a reporter that Attorney General Bondi never told him his name was in those files. Now we know that this was a lie, plain and simple, a red-faced lie. And this revelation raises not just serious questions about President Trump, but about Attorney General Bondi herself. Bondi has proven to do all of Trump's bidding. No matter what way you slice it, General Bondi lied to the American people. She told us we'd see the report. She told us it's on her desk. Then we're told there's no report. So you can understand the deep skepticism Americans have when they hear that today, Bondi's personal prosecutors, yes, the very ones under her direction, are preparing to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accomplice behind closed doors in Florida. Let me repeat, under no circumstances should anyone from Donald Trump's Department of Justice be allowed to privately interview Ghislaine Maxwell. The conflict of interest just stares you in the face, and it's unacceptable. If you've been following this saga, and given how the White House and Speaker Johnson have so mishandled it, and who hasn't been following it, you know exactly why this moment is so dangerous. There is every reason to fear that Donald Trump could offer Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon in exchange for silence or even worse, phony exoneration. Let me be clear. Trump is sending his personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, to try and execute a corrupt cover-up, potentially offering leniency to a woman who also abused the victims. Enough. Enough. Enough with the hiding. Enough with the excuses, and enough with the cover-up. The American people deserve transparency. They deserve answers. And there are massive questions here, not just for the president, but for the vice president, the attorney general, the FBI director, and Republican leaders in Congress. What's in the files? When did they learn about it? And how long have they been misleading the American people? So today, on the heels of Speaker Johnson fleeing town to avoid accountability and following this damning report from the Wall Street Journal, I am calling on the administration to provide a closed-door briefing to all senators on the Epstein files. The Senate deserves to hear directly from senior administration officials about Donald Trump's name appearing in these files and the complete lack of transparency shown to date. Let me say it again. Donald Trump can't play ignorant anymore. He was caught red-handed in a lie, as were his lackeys. He reportedly knew for months that his name was in the Epstein files. He lied about it to the press. And now the truth is coming out. Over the past few weeks, Trump has tried to change the subject, throwing out wild accusations, attacking his critics, and calling the files a hoax run by Democrats. He's blamed foolish and stupid Republicans for taking it seriously. He even scolded the American people for caring too much. Well, we now all know why he was so desperate to make it all disappear. Because whenever Donald Trump points a finger, it's because he knows he's guilty of what he's accusing everyone else of. That's his MO. When he does something, when he knows he's done something wrong, instead of admitting it, instead of trying to make amends, he points the finger at someone else and accuses them of the very thing he has done. That's how he's lived his whole life. That's how he's conducted this presidency. As I said, it's his MO. Let us not forget, Donald Trump campaigned just several months back on releasing the Epstein files. Donald Trump was the only president or politician to ever campaign on releasing the Epstein files. And now, very simply, Americans are demanding he honor it. A good number of people voted for Trump because he promised to be their voice against the so-called deep state. But now they have seen he is very much part of that deep state. He's right in the middle of it. People believed he would drain the swamp. Now he's right in the middle of the swamp. And that's why Americans across the political spectrum, right, center, left, Democrats, Republicans, independents, Americans across the political spectrum are angry with Donald Trump because they now are seeing his promise to drain the swamp was total fiction. He's in the middle of it. He's adding to it. Trump promised transparency. He told his supporters he'd expose the truth. He's done the opposite. He's smothered it more than ever before. And meanwhile, House Republicans had the chance to show courage, to do the right thing and act. But instead, Speaker Johnson ran for the exits, sending everyone home early and triggering what we now call the Epstein recess. But I'd say to Speaker Johnson, I'd say to Donald Trump and his minions, I'd say to all of my Republican colleagues in the Senate, this issue isn't going away. It's only getting bigger and more dangerous the longer Republicans ignore it. Instead of focusing on appropriations or national priorities like transparency for Americans or funding the government, Speaker Johnson and House Republicans will be left cleaning up this mess, a mess of their own making. Republicans cannot escape the issue, not next week, not next month, not until the American people get answers and the transparency they were promised.
Mr. President, last week I stood here and introduced a simple resolution calling on the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. But a Republican senator blocked it. In the weeks since, even more damning information has come out, and now we know exactly why Trump is bending over backwards to keep these files hidden. We know that Epstein was at Trump's wedding. We know that Epstein once called Trump his closest friend for 10 years. And we've seen that Trump wrote Epstein a birthday card and said, and I quote, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." And the real kicker, we learned yesterday that Trump is in the Epstein files, and he knows it. The truth is coming out, and the cover-up is crumbling. So I'm here again, and my request is very simple. The Senate should go on record supporting the release of the Epstein files. Any effort to block their release is simply a continued cover-up of our nation's elites. While I stand here on the Senate floor demanding answers, House Republicans have ran for the exit, ended their term early, skipping town early to avoid taking up any more discussion about Epstein and the files. They didn't just punt accountability, they literally fled Washington, D.C. While everyday Americans are struggling to afford their groceries and their health care, we have a president in the White House focused on protecting the most powerful men and women who preyed on children. This is who Donald Trump really is. He campaigns as a man of the people. When it comes down to it, he is a servant of the powerful and the elite. He built a movement claiming to fight those same elites, and now he is protecting them every way possible. And the American people are seeing right through it. They spent years listening to Trump promise that he was going to release the Epstein files, and now he is mocking them every day for even believing him and all his lies. But the American people are not stupid. They know something is off. They smell it. If Donald Trump really wants these files released, they'd be out already. Instead, he's orchestrating a cover-up, and he is not acting alone. The entire Republican Party, the FBI director, the intelligence community, and the Justice Department are backing him up to bury the truth. They're doing it because they're doing everything they can to keep the truth buried because they know who's in those documents and they want to protect them and his friends. So today, I'm calling on my colleagues to stand with me and stand on the side of the American people, not the pedophile elites that they are trying to protect, and call on the Justice Department to release these files. It is that simple. If there's nothing to hide, then come out and prove it.
As we hear my colleague from Arizona use, I'd say, very liberal truths to what he was saying by not giving all the facts, I'd also propose a question. Where was all this outrage over the last 4 years when Director Wray was over the FBI and Attorney General Garland was over the DOJ? He knows, I know, and all the Democrats know that if there was anything to do with President Trump, they would have happily released it. My Lord, you went after him for everything else you could possibly think of. Why wouldn't you possibly go after this? Well, it's because this is nothing but political theater. We know that. We know that what your resolution does is it doesn't actually have transparency, because we all want transparency. All of us want transparency. We want to know actually what happened. The American people want to know what's happened. But what this resolution does is it actually is a blurred line between the separation of powers. When we start dictating to the Department of Justice what they can and can't do, there's a clear separation of power. We're the legislative branch. That's what we do. We make laws. We can't dictate other branches on what they must and how they must do their job. Now, with that being said, I would simply ask the question, why now? Is it because their hatred towards President Trump? Because they want to do anything they can possibly do to distract what they might be hiding? Why wasn't this done the previous 4 years? What happened? They had the same files. This case wasn't new. So this resolution does absolutely nothing, and therefore I object.